I'm John Steyer, broker and owner of Steyer Real Estate Professionals, and your host of Columbus Brick by Brick. Each week, we'll sit down with local leaders, business owners, and community members making an impact in Columbus. From real estate and development to the stories behind the city's growth, we'll break it all down brick by brick. If you're passionate about Columbus and where it's headed, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Today, we're diving into the world of short-term rentals with someone who knows the business inside and out. My guest today is Sarah Karakaian, a real estate investor, short-term rental educator, consultant, realtor with Steyer Real Estate Professionals, and co-host of the very popular Thanks for Visiting podcast. Sarah's journey is anything but ordinary. She started on Broadway before shifting into real estate. And now she helps hosts and property owners create standout short-term rental businesses. From launching her first Airbnb in New York City to building a thriving brand around education and consulting, she's learned what it really takes to succeed in this fast-moving industry. We'll talk about her biggest lessons, business strategies, and how she challenges the usual advice on growth and success. Plus, she'll share what's next for short-term rentals and what hosts should be thinking about for the future. If you've ever thought about getting into the short-term rental game, or you just love to hear about smart, creative business growth, you won't want to miss this conversation. So let's get into it. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate it. You know, you are our very first guest, and we really appreciate that.
Happy to.
So I would like to kind of learn a little bit about you. I know we kind of shared a little bit about who you are and what you do, but if you could kind of tell us just a little bit, maybe in your own words, about what it is you do and just a brief bit of your journey so that we can delve into it, that would be great.
Yeah. So like most entrepreneurs, my journey is convoluted, maybe a little bit, but I currently help short-term rental managers optimize their operations and their revenue. And I do that through online content. So podcasts, YouTube, group coaching, and then one-on-one coaching. And I love what I do. But I set out on my entrepreneurial journey in 2014 in New York City. I was hanging up my tap shoes. I was a Broadway performer for a long time, for about 15 years. And I noticed myself getting a little judgy in the audition room.
Okay.
Or I would be like in the hallway getting ready to go in and look at the girls next to me to my right or left, and it was no longer fun. And I couldn't control my destiny as much as I wanted to. So my husband and I went into business together, and we first tried. I was a professional organizer for a while, helping people. I specialized in closets. I could tell you like how much space you needed for everything you had, like it was a gift. And my husband was, he was working for Google as a space planner, also ready to go out on his own. And he started a handyman company. So we would hire each other often. He would hire me to help a client who he saw an opportunity where I could help them, maybe organize their New York City apartment. Or I would hire him like, hey, we're ready to outfit this closet. Could you? And so that's where it started. And but we were also investing in real estate. And it was around 2010. And this word Airbnb started popping up in conversation with some of my actor friends. There was this platform where you could, while you were out auditioning or on the road doing a national tour, you could get someone to stay in your place and pay money much higher than you could pay another actor to stay in your place while you're gone. Because like subletting is nothing new. Right. But doing it via a platform like Airbnb was new. And so at the time, we owned a property in Queens. Okay. A really desirable location. That's a whole other story about how we acquired it. But I was like, Nick, we should try with its basement. I was like, we should try to put this on the platform, Airbnb. He's like, you mean have strangers come into our basement and like stay for a few days and then leave? And I was like, that's exactly what I mean. Like we could do this. Right. He was not excited about it, but I am persuasive. And we tried it and it was great. No axe murderers. So that's good. And we made a lot of money from it. And in New York City, we owned a 3-bed, 2-bath home with this like basement area we converted into an apartment or a short-term rental. That word wasn't really used at the time. It was an Airbnb. And we were more than paying our mortgage. So we were truly making money while trying to get our businesses off the ground. So we were doing a lot of stuff, just trying to make it work. I couldn't even tell you if we were making money at the time. I wasn't really tracking any of that. We were just like throwing spaghetti on the wall. But what did happen was we caught the eye of HGTV on Instagram, also new at the time, and we got to flip a short-term rental on HGTV.
That's fun.
And it was just like one of those things where it's like all these things were lining up where the basement apartment was working. Nick was he was a handyman, but then people wanted him to like renovate their entire apartments. I wasn't just organizing closets. The jobs got bigger.
Right.
And I was like, I think we're on to something, what we're supposed to be doing. And so long story short, in 2017, we decided to move somewhere where we could put our investment dollars to work even more. It's really hard in New York. There's a lot of red tape.
Right.
Really expensive, not impossible. But so what we did is we sold our property, which we sold it as an operating short-term rental.
Lovely.
With email addresses, with the cleaner in place, all the furniture, everything. And we bought it for $475,000 and we sold it to close to $900,000 in 4 years, which was awesome. Return on investment.
Totally.
We bought an RV. Okay. We put most of that in the bank, bought an RV, and we drove around the country trying to find a market where we could continue doing short-term rentals, continue improving homes, but make it a little easier. Like I dreamed of like driving a car and parking in a parking lot instead of like getting on the train with all of our tools.
Yeah.
And then like hauling up like, 4 flights of stairs.
Well, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. It can get heavy.
It can get very heavy, right? So long story short, we parked the RV in Columbus, Ohio. We put an offer in on a 4-plex in the 5th by Northwest neighborhood, which is right between Grandview and Upper Arlington.
Yep.
And we told the seller that we would pay all cash because we didn't know what we were doing, okay? And I was like, well, we have the cash. We could just buy this thing. And then we started talking to people like, you should leverage money.
Sure.
And because at the time, the interest rates were quite low. I think our rate on that loan is like 2.9%, something great like that.
Yep.
And so midway through the contract, we changed it from an all-cash offer to a loan, which the seller didn't really love that. But he was already halfway in, so he was like, fine. But
let's see this through.
Yeah. And we bought that, and we fell in love with Columbus. And like, I had never seen so much brick in any town that we had been to while traveling. It just felt like Columbus cared about the way,
history and totally.
And the vibe. And I fell in love with it. And so we thought we were going to like get this 4-plex up and running as a short-term rental and then maybe move to a different market.
Okay.
We were thinking like Alabama, but we just got involved. I met certain people. My current business partner, I met her at a city council meeting. Things just kept us not moving. We just stayed. And so obviously a lot of things happened once that happened, but that's my entrepreneurial journey. That's how I got to Columbus and how I got to helping people with their short-term rentals. It started in 2010, tried a bunch of stuff, and here I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And as a Columbus native and someone who grew up in Grandview, I'm very well aware of how awesome that location is. Yeah. So kudos to you on your first acquisition, a 4-unit in the 5th by Northwest area for short-term rental especially, but any real estate.
Yes.
That's a great buy. So cool. Now, do you still own that property or did you sell it?
It'll be one of those things that I doubt we'll ever sell it. It's good.
Buy and hold.
Buy and hold.
That's right.
Buy and hold in general. I do believe in like looking at your portfolio and making sure that all of your assets are performing the way you want them to and not getting too emotionally attached to them.
Sure.
But this was a good buy.
Yeah. So have you sold other assets that you've bought?
Yes. So we got into flipping for a while
as
a way to bring in a cash injection so that we can buy more properties.
Sure.
But that is what I learned in the past like 10, 11 years of my life is that going narrow and deep in what you focus on is where it's at. This whole like trying to do all the things. When I moved here, I was managing short-term rentals for other people. For myself, I was organizing still. I was staging. I had a warehouse.
Okay.
Nick was managing people, like out-of-state investors flips. He was helping me with all those businesses. Like, it was too much.
Yeah.
And how fun it is to just go narrow and deep on a topic, and then people then come to you because you are an expert in that topic. And it's almost like you have to try less hard because it's just easier to become known for something. So I don't know how I got on that tangent, but we're going to keep the property, and we have sold things. They were flips at the time. And the purpose of them was, though, to make money fast and reinvest it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, to your point, the riches are in the niches, but it is so easy to get caught up in the shiny object syndrome. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And because I've done this and that, I've never been an organizer, but I've done a lot of what you've done. And it is, you see other people being successful in something and you're saying, I could do that. I want to do, let me give that a shot. I could do that. But you're right. When you really narrow it down and you go deep, that's where the true success lies. Yeah. Become the authority.
Yes.
Become the go-to person for that in your market, and you will find success. So you mentioned your current business. Can you tell us about your current business?
Yeah. It's Thanks for Visiting is the name of it. It was born out of meeting my business partner, Annette Grant, at a Columbus City Council meeting. I will admit it was probably my first city council meeting ever, but at the time I had just moved to this market wanting to invest in short-term rentals, and the city was talking about putting some pretty hefty restrictions on them. I am all for restrictions. I am all for licensing. I am all for making it a little hard for people to do certain things so that people who are involved pay attention.
Right.
That being said, I also believe in being able to leverage my real estate investments responsibly as I'd like to. So I showed up to the city council meetings and sat next to Annette, and we went out for a drink shortly thereafter and could not stop talking about laundry, about pricing, about cleaners, about, property in Columbus. Like, it was like I found someone who understood what I did. And she had already started a podcast. She was batching her first 12 episodes, and she was going to release them once they were all done. And she asked if I could be a guest on it. And I was like, absolutely. I didn't know anybody either. Yeah. So I'm here for a friend as well. And so I showed up. She had this is Annette. She had a photographer, a videographer, copyright. She had all these fancy people. I was like, this girl is she's got it together. She's got something going on. Sat down, recorded the episode, and there was so much chemistry. Just talking, it was a great feeling of this woman gets me. We believe what we believe the same things. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but essentially she's like, what if I just don't do this podcast and we do a podcast together? And I was like, yes. I was already, on top of organizing all those things, I was a blogger as well. A home improvement blogger. We have one of the most watched drywall videos on YouTube. You're welcome.
We'll have to link that.
You'll have to link. It's a good one. Nick is funny. My husband. Anyway, I was already kind of wanting to be a voice, a thought leader in this space. And I never even thought of podcasting. So that's where it started. 2019, we put our first podcast episode out. And now we're at 200 or 470 something like that.
And counting. Oh, yeah. We've
not missed an episode. And from that, we now have a membership. We have private coaching. We have things grew out of that to where we weren't just talking about what we were doing each day and learning from each other by sharing whether they were war stories or successes, and people would write in and be like, oh, this is how you solve that. This is how you solve this. I was learning as I was sharing, and it was catching on. And so people would email us or ask us to come speak, or obviously it did very well for the management side of things. I was managing people's short-term rentals, and they were like, we would love for you to do our, it was just this thing that just snowballed. And that's what it is. But today it's just the content and just the education. And helping businesses, not just in the U.S., really globally, which is exciting because business really is, numbers are the same everywhere. And I love numbers very much. And so you can speak that language no matter where you're at. Hospitality is also very similar globally, making people feel welcome. There are some other nuances like regulations or software, things of that nature, but it's really fun to learn how other people get the same job done, the same goals done to make money, be profitable, offer hospitality, be safe, all those things.
Yeah.
And so having a good time doing that.
So you went from a city council meeting to having a huge online brand. What would you say is a pivotal moment for you and Annette in that growth? Was there a time or an action that you guys went through or took that really took you to the next level?
There were many, but one that sticks out to me is I mentioned that I was a stager. I did everything. And the National Staging Association asked me to come speak at their conference. And I had learned from whatever podcast I was listening to that I should probably have something to sell from stage. I had nothing to sell. So they asked us in like November to come speak at this conference. It's attended by thousands. And I think it was maybe in like spring or summer. I had like 4 or 5, 6 months to like build something that I could offer to help people and to like build the revenue side of things for visiting.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this and make money at it. So we had to figure out how to monetize it.
Right.
And so them asking us to come speak at that conference, and then us knowing enough, like, hey, we should have something to offer these people who want more, really taught us how to offer something in exchange for money, and teach people how to do the thing that they were looking to learn from us. So I think that kind of kicked it off.
That really took your business from an online content or podcast to a true business.
Yes.
Is what you'd say.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So what is one big thing that you are working on or you're excited about coming up for you and for your brand and your business?
Yes. We learned some lessons the past year or two.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, recognizing that you learned something, even when you're in the messy middle of it, I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back because I think that's hard to do. I'm sure there are other lessons that totally like went over my head.
Can't win them all.
Can't win them all. But we tried to grow too fast, too quickly.
Sure.
We did it well. Like, for example, we put on a giant conference. When I say giant, I mean like hundreds of people were there. People flew in from all over. It was done well. We did it 2 years in a row. And there were other things that we were just trying to do all the things. And as we reflected and looked at the numbers and looked at what our lives were like as business owners and entrepreneurs, I mean, being your own business owner, you should be able to know, okay, I'm sacrificing for this outcome. But when the sacrifice isn't worth the outcome, you have to kind of like check yourself. And so what we're working on this year is doing less, and what we do decide to keep in the docket, do it better.
Yeah.
So less but better is our motto this year. And then next year, I suspect it'll be more of the same, but better.
Okay. So again, you're boiling it down. You're getting deep in what you do best.
Yes.
That actually segues really well into what I wanted to ask you. As business owners, I know that it's very easy to burn ourselves out and experience, it, and it can come from the growth, which is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing too. How do you prevent yourself from feeling burnt out? What do you do? Do you have any secrets to share?
I think this is very individual to everyone. I might actually say something that's maybe against some people's beliefs, but it's what I believe. I love to work.
Okay.
I don't necessarily need like Saturday and Sunday off. I don't need to like put my computer down at 5 and not open again until next morning at 9. There are some people who need that. And I love that for them. And when I have a team, like I need to know what makes you tick, what makes you productive, how can I serve the person you are? I love working. I love what I do. But I have to make sure that I'm doing the thing in our business that fuels me. So I think sitting in the wrong seat maybe accelerates burnout more than just saying the word working. So I think just being in tune to what fuels you, what actually gives you energy instead of depletes it, will help with that. But checking in with yourself, looking at your schedule, looking at how you feel, and being honest with yourself is half the battle. And asking for help is also hard for people to do, especially business owners.
It can be very hard. I know that when I'm looking internally, it's always like, well, I want to do it. I want it done this way. I want to do it. I want to handle it. And we can't. As we grow, we have to build a team.
Right.
And I know that you've built a great team around you. Annette and yourself have a great team that you work with. Can you talk to me a little bit about growing your team, what that experience was like for you, what you found success in, and what were maybe some challenges that you experienced?
Yeah. Going back to making sure you really understand what you're hiring for and hiring the talent that is meant to fill that void. So hiring the person who's meant to sit in the seat they're sitting in. Like you and I talked about this. Like whenever we hire someone, we really want to understand their personality type, what fuels them, what they're already good at. Because if I hire someone for a position and as we're interviewing or as I'm looking at, you know, what their personality type is, and it's actually everything that this position isn't, it's just going to be oil and vinegar or oil and water. It's just gonna be this friction point, and no one's gonna win in that case. So really understanding the position, and then when we go out to hire, we use a personality test called predictive index, but there's all sorts.
Right.
And we have them go through a predictive index before we even meet them for an interview. And like the application process, yes, I care about your experience, but I really want to know about who you are, what you're looking to do, what your goals are. How do you believe this job will help you achieve those goals and feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself? And I think that helps. You don't always get it right, but it sure is a lot more hitting the target than if you're just talking to someone for a few 20-minute interviews and then crossing your fingers. And then checking in with them after they get hired. I believe in the 30, 60, 90 day and really recognizing what they do well, being able to very quickly share when they've got some areas of improvement or where they're not hitting KPIs, like again, goes back to numbers and, but also checking in with their feelings and their emotions about their job. And just being attentive. I mean, as business owners, we've got to take care of the team. Right.
You know? And I know for us, like it was a lesson that we had to learn that, hey, create a system and work your system. Create a system that you know is going to work for you, and then let it do its thing. Right. And it's so easy to just hire and not follow your system, but it will bite you. And so I know that as you grow a team, that you mentioned the personality test. We do the DISC, but same thing, right? And we hire to a personality type. Yeah. We hire a personality type to fit the role. And yes, experience matters, but I'm of the opinion that most people can be trained to do a job if they're a good fit for it.
Absolutely.
So I care more about like, is this something that's going to work for the hire, for the person that I am looking to bring on, so that when they're brought on, they are a fit and they're going to find success and enjoy the role, right? I want people to enjoy working with me, and I want to enjoy working with them.
It has to be that way.
And if they're not a fit, they're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then nobody wins.
I also think that's like we tend to want to hire for this thing that's stressing us out, right? This like area of our business that's either stressing us out, we're not good at, but then we bring them in and we're like, good luck. Like there's no training, there's no onboarding, there's no system for getting them feeling like they're at home and helping them build out that system. And so I think a lot of business owners, if you're feeling like your new hire isn't performing, the first thing you should probably do is look in the mirror. Right. And make sure that you've given them a framework. And if you don't know how to do their job, that's okay. But you could still work with them to really unlock their expertise, share with them where the problems are, like work together with them and make sure you're setting that time aside. After you hire the person day one, it's not like that problem's off your plate. And I think a lot of business owners make that mistake. Yeah. It's like, we've really got to make sure they feel comfortable. They know their way around, whether it's like physically or mentally around your office. Maybe you're like me, we're all online, but I need to make sure they understand where to get different things, who everyone is, the different personality types of our vendors, things of that nature. Like all of that stuff takes some time. And the more you can foster that onboarding process, I think the more success you're going to have with that employee as you move on with them. Yeah, totally. We are very aligned in that. So, and it's always a struggle, but we're always improving, right? Yes. So, well, let's talk a little bit about our market here in Columbus.
And, you are in the short-term rental space, both globally, but also locally, in that you own real estate here and you've managed property here for years. You moved here to do it. I would love to talk a little bit about the relationship that we have in that world, in that, we manage real estate, short-term and mid-term rentals here. And let's talk a little bit how we met, actually. If you want to start, we can kind of work on that together.
I'll tell my side of the story. And maybe you stick out to me more than I stick out to you, but you stick out to me, John. I think it's a fun story how I got this property, but I was just getting I was looking to get more clients to manage their properties. Mm-hmm. And I had a certain goal in mind at the time. I think it was like 20 or 30 at the time. And what I would do is I would go on the Facebook Marketplace and I would see listings that were kind of sitting and not getting rented. Mm-hmm. And I would reach out to the landlord and see what their problems were and then share with them that, hey, this might be a great candidate for a short-term rental. And that's exactly how I got the property where you and I met. Mm-hmm. So this property is a 12-unit, and it's in a great location for a short-term rental. And I already knew that. I knew regulations. I knew exactly where it was located. And I knew that it was somewhere where someone wouldn't want to live all the time. It was a third floor attic conversion, not done particularly well for someone to live there a long time, meaning there wasn't a lot of storage. It was a long hike up these stairs over and over again. So anyway, I won the landlord over and I converted it into a short-term rental. But that person sold the building, but they sold it with some long-term rental tenants in place.
Yep.
I'm going to pat myself on the back here because at the time I was like, I know nothing about long-term rentals. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stay.
A completely different bag.
I'm going to stay in my lane. Mm-hmm. And I told the new owner, I am happy to continue managing your short terms. I would love to, because then they gave me more, a previous owner gave me more units after that. But I was like, I cannot do long-term. And so you were working for a company at the time, managing long-term rentals, and you and I would run into each other there. I think I even came to your office to meet your team and like, how are we going to make this work? It's 12 units. How can we work together to be collaborative in that nature? And I met you. And the one thing that stood out to me with you, John, was there was a lockout at the property and you and I both showed up to save the day. Mm-hmm. And I remember you saying like, I'm used to being the hero. It's like, feels weird to have someone else like here to help with the lockout. And I just appreciated that you cared to be there fast, to come with a solution, because I found that to be, unfortunately, a rare characteristic in property management.
Yeah.
And then you and I continued to bump into each other. I think actually we converted the entire building short-term rental shortly thereafter, so you and I didn't see each other anymore, but we would meet up at the local meetup Coin, and you were getting into midterm rentals and short-term rentals, and you and I would talk. And I just appreciated your dedication to understanding what it took to be, yes, profitable, but safe, and following, being a good neighbor, having places that are like comfortable and not built to like break down in the first few weeks of it being open. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just be different than the conversation that was pretty rampant.
Right.
During the early 2020s, of just
it was a little wild during COVID there.
It was, yeah. It wasn't. It wasn't easy to be really good at your job, or it was easy to be the best because most of your competition was
right.
Everybody
and their brother wanted to have a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Saturation we're still dealing with it.
Yeah.
From then.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some dwindling. It's fizzling a little bit in the amount of competition because of that. Mm-hmm. But it was a little wild anyways.
Yeah.
To your point, I definitely remember you, and I remember that time. And for the longest time, I had you in my phone as Sarah Airbnb.
I love it.
So I definitely, had the connection of you and short-term rentals. And I think that, obviously locally, you've had that connection for a long time. And now, like you mentioned, globally, you are a player in that space. I would love to bring it back local, though. What do you see for the future of short-term rentals here in Columbus? I mean, things are shifting, things are changing. You're an authority. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I internally, whenever we're doing pricing or calendar management for a property, our goal is to always to beat the market. Mm-hmm. And so 2024, which was just last year, we kept hearing about saturation. The properties I manage, they're all great. Managed, actually, and we can get into that if you want to, but I know now we have this collaboration, this merger, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, at the time, managing, and I kept hearing about saturation. And the moral of the story is there's always room at the top. There is always room to be the best.
Right.
And our properties continued to beat the market, even in a quote-unquote saturated market.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're worried about saturation and you're worried about these little hacks to make your property perform well, you're losing sight of the bigger picture, which is what the consumer wants. Meet them where they're at. How are they traveling? Meaning, like, if they want to travel and stay somewhere for a night rather than forcing people to stay for, 4 or 5 nights, then you'll do well. Or if they want a comfortable mattress that doesn't squeak every time they turn over because the screws are loose in the bed, and they leave you a great review. Like, it's these really listening to your customer. It goes with any business.
Sure.
They'll tell you what they want and what they're willing to pay for. And so I have yet to experience saturation. I'm not saying it won't ever happen to me, but when you're in tune with what the market wants and you're willing to pivot and shift and listen to them, your business will do well. Or we can go back to short-term rentals. Your short-term rental will do well. Now, I'm not saying don't just go buy someplace and not do your homework. Like, understand that whatever you're paying for that property and understanding what it will most likely make based on the data, but then dig into that. Who owned it before?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a place that you can improve, whether it's the product itself, meaning the property, or improve operations or the revenue management strategy? All those the different levers you could pull, and you could find a diamond in the rough and make that investment do what you want it to do. But you've got to do your research and run your numbers before you dive in. But there's always room at the top.
I love that. There's always room at the top.
Yeah.
You can always be the best.
Yes.
You can always be better than the best.
That's right.
I love that. So, in your opinion, maybe there is saturation if you're not willing to be the best.
Yeah.
But saturation doesn't exist at the top.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Someone's got to be the best.
That's right.
So it should be you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I would like to get into a little bit about where we've landed in our business relationship, and that we're both, I think, really excited about and super looking forward to the future.
Yes.
So you approached me and my company. It's been several months now about kind of a merger, a collaboration with regards to management. You were managing properties here and still are, but managing short-term rentals here locally in Columbus. And you came to me and said, I think that we're aligned in our values. I think that we see things similarly. And from there, we started a conversation. And that conversation, I think, has turned into something pretty exciting and awesome. We were talking about finding a way to allow you to be able to really focus on thanks for visiting.
Yes.
So I would love it if you can tell me a little bit about where that went,
Mm-hmm.
and we can dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. I was doing some deep work October 2024 and came up with that motto, less but better. And I knew that if I wanted to serve the clients who I was managing their assets, that I needed to do it in a different way, because I also wanted to serve Thanks for Visiting and the hundreds of businesses that I helped there. I couldn't be everywhere at once. And checking in on my burnout, I loved what I was doing, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice of literally staying up all day and all night to make both entities work. There are a lot of different roads I could have gone down, but ultimately I knew that I wanted to get some sort of solution for the property management company, because I knew that I could, whatever happened there, I could serve my clients in a way that really put their best interests ahead of my own. And you were the first person that came to mind. I mean, and I told you that when we hopped in the Zoom call, that I have not talked to anyone else, and I would like this to be something that we look at together. And so what ended up happening was our properties and my real estate license came over to STR. And since then, my entire team came over to STR. And
which we're so lucky to have them.
And it was great because they wanted to sink their teeth more into the industry, into property management and property care. And I wasn't giving them that. And I knew they were a great individual. So I also saw an opportunity there. I was like, gosh, like now there's more properties for them to care for. There's more opportunity for everyone. And I just saw it as this great win-win all around. Mm-hmm. The owners get benefits because there's a bigger team, maybe even plugging into more features and services because we're able to apply economies of scale to the services that we're offering. It was just great. Mm-hmm. And now I get to do what I love doing, which is looking at the business with you, John, and your wife, Sarah, from a bird's eye view and share how I can help you see, like, okay, this is what's happening at STR Hospitality. Here's what's happening in other businesses that I am consulting on, mm-hmm. and bring that back to you, which then serves the employees, it serves the properties, it serves the owners, and it's just, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, we have viewed it as such a win-win, and we consider ourselves so lucky to, like just the spark of an idea, which what we do, we manage short-term rentals, we manage midterm rentals. Mm-hmm. And that's what you approached us about originally, and how can we collaborate on that? And it became something so much more. And I am just so glad that it all came together in the way it did. And we've brought you on now as Director of Strategic Planning, which, I view as almost an in-house consultant, because you have this wealth of knowledge that, no one individual business is ever going to be able to achieve. Right. But because you're consulting and working with so many businesses like ours, mm-hmm. all over the world, it's such a unique opportunity for us. And I know that the outlet for you of still being able to be involved in the property management is not only something you enjoy, but is important to your business as well.
Right.
So it's just been such a huge benefit for everybody. And on top of it, we like you. So that helps too,
We have fun together when we meet up.
Yeah,
which
totally.
is great too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on, and look forward to continued success. Yes. So we're going to link all your stuff and everything, your social media, website, podcast, and all that. And, we're look forward to continued success. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. So that's a wrap on today's conversation with Sarah Karakaian, and what an incredible journey and wealth of insights on short-term rental business and growth. I have really enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who'd find it valuable. You can connect with Sarah and learn more about her work at thanksforvisiting.com, on Instagram and YouTube. And don't forget to check out her Thanks for Visiting podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time as we continue breaking it down brick by brick.